Root Mobile presents Root Amplify in association with CNBC TV 18.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this riveting discussion that promises to unlock the secrets of customer engagement in today's digital realm. We are about to delve into a topic that is at the heart of every successful business strategy: how omni-channel experiences can drive higher customer engagement. In a world where interaction and connection happen across various touch points, understanding the power of omni-channel experiences is the key to capturing hearts, minds, and loyalty. Get ready to explore the dynamic landscape where technology, strategy, and customer desires intersect to create exceptional engagement. Let's dive right in. First, to you, Shweta. I want to understand how has the entire, customer expectation evolved over the past couple of years, and also share with us, in response to that, how have you evolved your strategy for Tata Click?
Thank you, Shibani, and thank you for having me here. I'm Shweta. I work with Tata Click. I come from e-commerce industry. And it's a great question. I think it will be a good start for the panel also. Considering the era we are living in, right, where every day something new comes up, new discovery, new technology. So very exciting times for all of us. And also, COVID didn't work, right? So much so that we now say pre-COVID era and post-COVID era. And it has, over a period of time, evolved and pushed a lot of things that probably we were not doing earlier. So coming to your question and answering that, the kind of strategies that are being evolved in last couple of years, I will start by saying that, first of all, omni-channel strategy, shifting from multi-channel outlook to omni-channel outlook. And we will be, I think, talking about in the panel discussion later also. But what is omni-channel? Omni-channel is, giving a feeling to customer that, whatever channel customer chooses to interact with the brand, it is, uniform experience. Doesn't change with the channel, the change of channel. So that's the first thing that I would say has evolved and is a key trend these days. Second, I would say, and it's a topic that we have been discussing, and earlier also Mr. Vaidyanathan here talked about hyper-personalization, and he was mentioning how only 5 data sources can, helping them ask pointed questions or advising pointed questions. So that is another key trend or, strategy that is emerging on the personalization or hyper-personalization. And I think no discussion is complete without, about personalization or hyper-personalization without touching the topic of data analytics. And in the previous session also, we talked about how we can convert now using AI, ML, and generative AI now. How can we miss that, right? Generative AI. Now to convert, data into valid or relevant information, from information to insights and insights to action. So that is, another emerging trend. And the last one, I would say it's my favorite. There's one strategy that I see is emerging, and I call it bionic strategy or bionic approach. Bionic is a word, if you look up on, on internet, you will find it's a combination of 2 words, biology and engineering. So it is biology-inspired engineering, right? Which means that you are, and in a layman terms, how we describe it is, you are taking a combination of technology and human interaction, right? And it is said that if you do that, and if you do that in a right way, which suits your brand and the requirement of your customers, it can be a superhuman interaction or superhuman experience. So combining technology and human interaction can be really a superhuman experience for our customers. So these are some of the trends or some of the strategies that has evolved over a period of time.
And you brought a very interesting point. Also, pandemic happened. And pandemic was the time, Ajit, where it taught us how to order meat online, which was like not so highly penetrated, you know, before the pandemic. And all of us learned how to order our fish and chicken online. From then to now, like the same question goes to you. How has, you know, the customer expectation with brand 𝗘𝗫𝗍 evolved and changed? And how are you matching that expectation?
Okay. First of all, thanks for having me here. So yes, I represent 𝗘𝗫𝗍. I work as the Chief Technology and Product Officer there. Like you mentioned, we are the most loved D2C food tech brand of India. If you're into eating meat, there is nothing beyond 𝗘𝗫𝗍, you know that. But doing a meat business in India is incredibly hard. I think first of all, I think we need to understand that. We do everything from farming to sourcing to full-fledged production, mid-mile logistics, and then finally we have close to 100 plus dark stores through which we finally deliver freshest meat to your homes, right? Fresh means 4 degrees centigrade, not 1 degree up, 1 degree less. And all of these products having 2-day shelf life makes it incredibly hard to do. Nevertheless, I think that's our story about the customer now. Look, I think e-commerce penetration has always been in India for the last 10, 12 years, I believe. It started with the likes of Flipkarts and the Myntras of the world. Of course, pandemic did give us a significant boost. You know, those were the times when people engaged in much more deeper emotional experiences about cooking. I'm sure all of you here have done 2 or 3 dishes yourselves and just found a cook in yourself, right? And that's precisely the way customers think today. They're not thinking transactions. They're not thinking, here's a platform where I can just buy some product. They're thinking about emotional experiences that they can connect with the brand. And that's exactly the position that 𝗘𝗫𝗍 needs to, and we are trying to elevate ourselves to. We cannot play the transaction game because obviously people are going to consider value versus time versus my neighborhood meat store and so on and so forth. You're competing with a very different set of competition out there, extremely hyper-local, always available next door, and so on and so forth. So you got to play the experience game, and that's precisely what 𝗘𝗫𝗍 elevates the customers to do. So we do that through the primary channel for us, which is the app, our own app and the platform. So we have a digital, first of all, our app being the primary channel. We of course do channel partners through the quick commerce players in the market, but unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, there are a lot of experiences that you cannot control on a platform, right? What you can do on ourselves. So digital itself has multi-variations to it, and you need to understand which of them is actually the most important for you to connect with the customers, and we chose our own platform. Beyond this, there is always going to be the offline experiences that you have to create, because the whole thing about inspiration driving commerce, we have seen that in fashion, we have seen that in largely in fashion, also creep into food now, right? So, you know, we look at exclusive business outlets as one of the ways in which we actually elevate the experiences of culinary experiences. You go in there, you try to figure out what kind of cuisines you like, you're preparing food, you're suddenly finding yourself being this master chef that you never thought you would be. And then discover things like, you know, taste combinations and what works and what goes well with another and so on and so forth. And then finally, you find yourself doing a lot more than just transactions. And that's the world that we try to get into. This means that it also is incredibly hard in terms of constructing these experiences on the app, on the exclusive business outlets, making sure all of this data comes together so that we can tell who's what. And with meat, people can get extremely nitpicky. I can't tell a chicken eater to try something on fish or whatever not, and it just doesn't work. So you got to be extremely precise about who your customers are, what they like, and then tailor experience for them. So experiences are the way to go. Shivani. That's at least the way we are thinking about it.
Sure, sure. My next question to you, Saloni, is for a brand like L'Oreal, and I'll take the liberty at saying this, that customer experience is often considered as the sum total of all the interaction that the customer has with the brand. Now, for a brand like L'Oreal, which is present in malls, online, on Facebook, I see some ad of L'Oreal and I go to purchase that. For a brand like L'Oreal, how do you analyze and make sense of all these interactions that the customer is having with the brand?
So it's not a clear and a direct answer, and the answer is also as fragmented as the different touch points and the interactions that the consumer has today.
Sure.
And another interesting phenomena, Shivani, is also that earlier in all these years we've been approaching marketing with a lens of a funnel, and we believed that it was always awareness, consideration, and then conversion. But what this fragmentation and what I may also call the phygital world, right, which is omni-channel in many ways, as you're calling it, is also helping us understand that the journey is no longer linear. And what we increasingly need to solve for is what we call the messy middle, because there are so many occasions when a consumer would be made aware about a product on an e-commerce site, and actually her journey starts backward from there, where she then maybe goes onto a Google search, tries to find out more information, and then eventually considers the brand. And I think the only way to survive in a world which is so fragmented is, one, being consumer obsessed. And I think that's a mind shift change that we are also making. So of course, for over 100 years, L'Oreal globally has been a product-focused company. And we're changing that into being consumer-focused, which means that from the products that you launch to the interactions that you may have with your consumers via your advertising on any of the platforms, to actually the creatives and the ads that run as well, to then when she finally chooses to buy your product either online or offline or via some affiliate model. Each of those interactions, each of those journeys are measured in their own way in isolation today, because the other reality is also that we live in a world where there are walled gardens. And so as much as you may want as a company and as a brand to bring it all together, we need to be aware that we will be only able to do that in parts. And I think the trick is to be obsessed with your consumer and obsessed with measurement, and keep improvising as you learn along the way.
Obsessed with the consumer and obsessed with measurement, but how do you look at them as a human being, Bhaskar? Like, how do you create a human bond in this, in this world obsessed with data and insights and chatbots and AI?
Yeah. Great question, Shivani. And so here is what I think. I think AI is going to make marketers smarter and marketing simpler. And I'll tell you why. If you take a step back and look at what AI will do to all of us, is it will save time, towards things that only humans can do. Things like creativity, empathy, and judgment. Anyone who started their career in marketing, I did, like a couple of decades back, these are the 3 reasons what attracted us to marketing and build great brands. Now, everything else is a means of getting there. And I think what AI and generative AI is going to do is to bring that power back into the hands of the marketer. And today, the competition in any company is not really with AI as a technology, but it is really a marketing manager should be, or CMO should be more focused on competing with a marketer who uses AI. A doctor should be focused on, hey, who's the other doctor who's leveraging AI towards the success, and so on and so forth. And I'll give you 3 examples to bring this alive on how to create this human bond and where is it actually headed. Think of personalization. I don't know if you have seen this new campaign by Mondelez. It's for Cadbury celebrations, right? They have just created instead of wishing anybody a happy birthday message, which is so transactional on a messaging platform, you can actually create a song. So Shibani, likes this, doesn't like this, she hates this, and so on and so forth. Give a few prompts, and it actually will write lyrics instantly, adds music, and adds and creates a personalized card. And I think it's just less than a week, 10 days, it is creating almost 2 lakhs of interactions, going forward. Now, this is really leveraging and creating that ripple on brand building, and too much of money is going lower the funnel these days. I think generative AI is going to kind of bring brand building back into the fore. And whether it is Netflix recommendations or even how YouTube recommendations actually happen, synthesizing 500 hours of content are being uploaded every minute globally. AI is a very, very powerful tool in the hands of marketers to do that. The second, I would say, is basically empathy, which is also missing in marketing, from one-way messaging to personalization. And so far, where marketing is headed is that, hey, okay, I will know this is the user, so I'll give a slightly personalized message to this user of sorts. But think of the possibilities of solving for the consumer friction, right? If you are buying an insurance policy, you don't even know how to read the terms and conditions and get lost in it. But an AI chatbot can actually tell you, hey, am I covered, and what is not covered, right? It will simplify, and that added empathy will also build more trust and build better respect for the brand, and we see that happening time and again. So there are many use cases. You can have more fun with AI, and you can also really look at all these aspects which will bring the power back into the marketeers. But it is a tool, and what you do with the tool is what will define success. But I'm really confident that AI will make marketers smarter, and and overall marketing will actually take a leap. And lastly, McKinsey did a study recently which says that the biggest ROI from AI is going to happen in marketing in general, right? So that's the way to use it.
Yes, absolutely. And some of the interesting things you said, about having more, looking at customers in a more human way is, of course, personalization and showing empathy. But having said that, and other interesting points that you make, my next question to you, Tushar, is how do you create effective omni-channel experience, and what are the challenges over there? If you can cite those challenges.
So thanks, Shivani. Look, omni-channel can definitely, improve the customer engagement through seamless and consistent interactions. There will be challenges for brands. Now, let me spell out a few. Any brand will have multiple touch points. So it can be a retail point or distribution center, or you will have your own communication channels. Now, this all have scattered database. They're sitting at various places. The first challenge is putting all the data together, one place. Now, apart from this, this is typically points, where customer starts its journey with the brand. Now, then comes, where do they register the grievances when they have problems with the brand or with the product. Then comes the CRM in place. Now, this second place where you store your information about the customer, your databases. So if you get these two things right, and your ability to understand the nuances of the various channels you deploy to reach to your end customers, you're almost there. Now, let's see that if you have overcome this piece, and what do you get from a platform like Ocean? It's an omni-channel platform. It helps you provide personalized reach to your customer. You can define your communication, understanding the past interactions, past grievances, past problems they had, or some good thing which happened with the user. That's point number one. Now, understand, over a period, your ability to understand what is this user pattern or what is this buying pattern, and you can start, designing your communications around that. You're able to cross-sell, upsell. You sort of, start customizing your communication to them. So this is how, I believe brands can, one, overcome the challenges and bring an effective strategy to acquire more customers.
Yeah. Over to you, Saloni, again. How should brand prepare themselves when it comes to the entire communication transformation? Every department would like to communicate with the customer. So how do you decide as a brand that which one should take charge?
So I think, again, it goes back somewhere to what I mentioned earlier, which is about being consumer-centric, and where that is concerned. Maybe we can look at this like a restaurant, where you may have at the back end in the kitchen many people who are working to bring you what comes ahead finally as your experience. But you as a consumer, when you go in, you're only dealing with your server who's telling you, whatever is available in terms of options. And that's really how we're trying to approach it. So we try, and again, it sits with the marketing, the centralized marketing function for us. But we try and bring in all the queries that the consumer has, either when they're calling us, or they're leaving comments on social media, or they're leaving comments today on e-commerce when they're buying across sites. So at each interaction that she or he may have with the brand, we try and syndicate all of that data into one platform. And then again, thank God for us being able to do marketing in a digital era. With the help of some tech and tools, we have a single repository via which we then manage all of the responses that go out. And it's not possible, like you said, for just one function in this organization to have all the answers. But then that's how we manage SOP internally. When if it's linked to formula or some bad experience, you'll get in touch with R&I and try and understand with research what really went wrong and respond to the consumer accordingly. But if she really wants to know about the best price or some product experience which was not available to her, then you would speak to people in the commercial team and the brand to understand what really went wrong and how you could bridge it. So we try our best to harness it in a single source.
Sure. Shweta, over to you. We all know about the growing influence of social media and community and user-generated content. So how can retailers really harness these channels to create authentic, engaging brand experiences?
Sure. I think the answer lies in the question itself, where you're saying authenticity, right? If you are, and there's so many avenues available, social media, user-generated content, community, right, and so on and so forth. If you are authentic about, communicating your brand purpose and philosophy in all of these channels, I think it really helps brand to, reach out to the consumers. Taking, one by one, you starting with social media that you said. But this is my personal, this is my point of view on this, that on social media, if brands are able to communicate their offering or whatever they want to communicate to customers in a storytelling, format, that has a greater adoption by customers. It generates more engagement and, generates more curiosity among customers. So that is one thing I think I have seen worked, right? We all know when Shah Rukh Khan is on Twitter, everyone knows, right? He says, ask Shah Rukh or something, right? And people just ask questions and he's answering, then and there. So these kind of engagements have really worked. User-generated content, I think it's very powerful in my mind. Nothing like a customer himself or herself talking about the experience, right? User himself or herself coming out and talking about the experience is a very, very powerful tool if the brands can get a lot of testimonials and experiences documented, which they can, again, in a storytelling format, can communicate. That really helps. And the last one, influencers, right? There's very, very young influencers. I think I don't have the qualification to become an influencer, but I've seen this young generation getting into it and doing quite well. But again, my opinion on influencers or collaborating with influencers would be that select somebody who resonates with your brand purpose, resonates with your brand philosophy or values, and who can communicate it very well to the audience. And hence, if you see, if there's a brand who wants to, who resonates well with younger generation, probably Alia Bhatt will be somebody who would be a best fit, or any influencer who's slightly younger. Just an example. Yeah, so these are some of the things that I feel that can really help.
Yeah, over to you, Ajit. There are many channels right now at a company or a brand's disposal. SMSs, for example, WhatsApp messages to reach out to the consumers. How do you decide what to prioritize?
Yeah, always a tricky one. And here is where I think a couple of panelists already talked about it. Comes about personalization and understanding the consumer on which of these channels and touch points he's most likely to interact with your brand, right? Now, as an example, now when somebody purchases, let's say, a product off your platform, let's say he came through the app and he bought it off there. Now, the next thing he immediately does with that product, in our case, is of course, put it on the stove and start the cooking process, right? And it's very unlikely that he's going to be starting the app up again, because I think his purpose with the app is done for that time. So the next obvious channel to interact with that, for that his journey to continue, of course, is going to be on a WhatsApp or on a YouTube or on Instagram, where there's short videos about what he should be doing with that product that he bought off us, how to make that perfect little small change to his cooking style so that it becomes much more enriching and tastier for him, and so on, right? Him or her. So in this case, it's about mapping the customer journeys and understanding where is the consumer likely to be at that point after a certain set of interactions he's had with the brand, and identifying which of them are the most likely places he's likely to be, and then interacting with that. That's one. Two, data can tell us a lot of things about how consumers generally interact with systems, platforms, brands, and so on. You generally see a pattern of when people interact on emails versus SMSs, or SMSs you really don't know, on push notifications, and so on, right? So points in time, points in days where they're likely to interact with a brand communication, not necessarily a purchase communication, but you launched a new set of products and you want your consumers to know which channel do you go after, right? So those are usually coming from data, and it's very easy to analyze this at large scale, precisely say which segment of your consumers are likely to act on what points in time on which of these communication channels, and then use that as a way to get to them, right? In the end, see, the time that consumers have is very limited, right? He's not out there seeking your brand. You just have to make sure that you're present in all those points, which is why, on the digital platform, it is mostly using data and insights of your consumer journeys, and be as much as possible present in the offline world that you're visible, right? Which is why a brand like us cannot ignore a physical side of the world as well. It's just impossible to do it in today's world. So this is what I think should be done.
Yeah, and we've spoken a lot about personalization, but at the start of the year, and I'm sure this made a lot of brands and marketers anxious, was cookieless, was like the term right at the beginning of the year. And then first-party data, and now digital personal data protection bill. What do you see, or how do you see its impact on the brands and the way in which they engage with the customers in the coming days?
No, thanks, 𝗘𝗫𝗣𝗟𝗔. And I think this is the clearly top of mind. If it is not top of mind, it should be top of mind for everybody going forward. Let's first understand the consumer, right? We did some work which said that 8 out of 10 consumers today expect privacy. So whether it is data privacy, it's become a consumer expectation which the business need to deliver on to begin with. Second, not only that, almost 70% of people actually say that if they know that a particular company has misused their data, the chances are that they will completely shun that brand from their consideration set.
Trust.
Exactly. Trust is so central, And so what's happening is that consumer expectation on privacy has actually increased. That's the truth that we have to acknowledge. But here is the good news. Technology has also evolved to be able to manage, right, deliver the consumer on his or her privacy expectations and deliver performances for the businesses as well. It requires a lot of mindset changes, and not to get channel-centric, but actually get consumer-centric, and willingness to do a lot more with a lot less data, right? And also providing fundamentally like 3 things I think is important, right? Providing choice, providing transparency, and providing control. For example, when I go for shopping on an apparel site or any one of the sites there, right? Like suppose when I buy something, it says, hey, are you buying this for your daughter, right? Now, why should I give that information? It should be very mindful. The company should be mindful. And suppose if I share that information, how are they using the data is also equally important. And if you use it in the right way, in fact, my trust on that brand actually increases even more. So it's a double-edged sword. If you misuse it and if you don't invest in systems like what Saloni was saying, if you can get channel-centric and then get lost in it, but if you get consumer-centric and create a strong first-party infrastructure, which can secure the customer's data, but also help you in measuring the performances, how it is actually working, delivering, it just helps to navigate this and make it into a competitive advantage and not just a compliance mechanism of sorts.
So consumer-centric is the way forward, as Saloni also
Yeah.
mentioned, even with
Yeah,
this.
not only consumer, one is, yes, delivering to the consumer expectations, but as this evolves, in my view, like almost 75% of the world's internet audiences will be under some or the other data regulation, new age data regulation in the next 1 or 2 years itself.
So many in the Europe already.
It's already, right? It's already happening. But good thing is platforms like ours, which are inherently like privacy first, we are actually ensuring that the platforms are ensuring user privacy as a part of the DNA of sorts. So it's important for brands and businesses to acknowledge that and also invest in it, so that otherwise people who don't do it will also struggle in measuring the performances of their investments. Yeah, I think in both ways it's actually important to deliver on this promise.
Sure. Another challenge, over to you, Tushar, is this seamless communication of like brand, let's say for someone like L'Oreal, between online and offline as well. So how do you ensure that it's seamless on both physical and online?
So it's again unifying the data which is available at various touch points. So you'll have to, as said, if you have to make an omni-channel strategy effective, you'll have to have all the information available at various touch points under one roof, under one platform, and ensure then it's available, to the touch points from where you've gathered the information. So the same thing which you've gathered from there should be put back as a platform at those points so it can be effectively used. So let's take an example. If there's a customer who's agitated, he walks into your store and he had past interactions at other touch points, at a call center, maybe at a branch office, and now he walks into a retail store and he has trouble. So imagine, the guy who presses the button and he has the entire history in front of him. All you got to do is buy a minute from the customer and say, sir, spare me a minute, I'll come back to you. He goes to the history, he understands what the possible resolution is, and if he's able to, across the table, give him an answer. Now, imagine what kind of, customer delight you're extending. So this is what I firmly believe, that omni-channel is, can fetch a lot of goods to brands.
Okay, and most of the brands jumping the omni-channel bandwagon and creating this omni-channel customer experience. I would like to open this to the entire panel. What are the top things top 1 or 2 things that come to your mind when it comes to creating successful omni-channel engagement? Let's begin with you, Ajit.
Okay, I would say probably there are 3 very important things, and maybe one before that, maybe 4. Okay, so first of all, you got to figure out what your multiple channels are going to do. I think it's very important to know for a brand what each channel means and why is it important. Trying to do everything on every channel is, I think, a recipe for disaster. So, and you should fixate on your primary ones and then figure out which are the auxiliary ones. And I think this is most important. The strategic thinking about channels and what they mean is the first thing to do. Beyond that, I think there are three tenets or three things that are extremely crucial for this to succeed. One is technology. This means that a complete integrated data platform to make sure that all the touch points is giving you right amounts of data that you can actually bring back into one unified source where you can analyze further, do all of that. Two, deep API integration with multiple tools that you might be using in these different touch points. Absolutely important as well. So I bucket them under this whole thing called technology as one thing that you have to do. Second would be consistent brand visibility, brand messaging across all of these channels. I think it is another thing that a lot of people sort of forget or do it incorrectly. Be it your presence in a physical setup, online setup, the communication copies and the kind of emotion that evokes, what it speaks to the consumer, the email, the push notifications, all of it matter. Right? And that has to be absolutely consistent in terms of what the brand stands for. You cannot say a different story in one channel and say an entirely different thing elsewhere and so on. So that's two. This also means there's a lot of training that you've got to do with also your human touch points, right? Somebody is calling in for something and they have to speak the same language, the same kind of emotions, the same the empathy with the consumer, all of it has to stay. So it's very, very important to get this part right. And the third would be personalized journeys across these and a consistent journey across these channels. So once you got your data, you got your brand philosophy and ethos all sorted out, I think it is about stitching that together across these channels in a consistent sort of journey. With a lot of personalization. I need to know what the consumer is if he drops off one place, comes up, pops up another place, calling your consumer agent, or we are going with a chatbot with, I don't know, a lot of self-serve options, etc. I think all of that needs to talk the same thing, so which means that has to be built consistently. So I would say one tenet and there's three fundamental things to get it right.
Fabulous, very well put. Shweta, over to you.
I think he covered everything. Let me add something which he has not spoken about. He's spoken about communication, consistency, everything, which is very important. I would like to add one point here. I feel that it is very important to create your customer journeys in such a way that you give a very voluntary exit to customer if customer wants to switch from one channel to another channel. Do not make your processes or customer journey in a way where customer is stuck with one channel. So for example, if bought online cannot do anything, offline, if, done something on social media, cannot do from the call center and so on and so forth. So creating your customer journeys in such a way that customer has a seamless experience switching from one channel to another channel, so that for customer doesn't feel that I'm interacting with different channel. It's one brand that comes across to customers.
Over to you, Bhaskar.
Yeah, I think a lot of points were covered, but let me just share that we believe that the future of retail is omnichannel. After all the investments in e-commerce in India, e-commerce is still 5% of the total market, and more than 95% is still offline and increasingly omnichannel, right? So investing in omnichannel capabilities is supremely critical, number one. In fact, we felt that like almost 93% of consumers today, internet users, expect omnichannel experiences, no matter what they're buying.
Sure.
But across sectors, we see that less than 40% of businesses are offering omnichannel experiences. And that is not even high quality, right? Some semblance of omnichannel experiences. So it is not just a consumer expectation, but it is also can become a very big competitive advantage if you invest in this capability, because 60% of people are not even doing it, right? Just imagine if it can take you ahead.
Where is the resistance?
Great question. The way their organizations are structured, I'm sure there are a lot of businesses here. Organizations get obsessed with the org structures. There is a direct D2C team, right? And they don't talk to the offline team, and they don't talk to the modern trade team, right? Each one of them have their respective businesses, and this is where I see that the cookie crumbling the most, because a lack of familiarity on how to get be more, because as Shweta was saying, right, consumer has this choice where to convert. He or she can get the trigger of what to buy from some communication, and can choose where to buy and go to the website, but can decide that she will go to the store and then, culminate it. But in the process, attributing, hey, whether who gets what and, who gets attributed this revenue, and these org structure challenges, I think, are the biggest stumbling block to begin with. If you are a CEO of any business, I think how to simplify the org so that, in a more consumer-centric fashion is the #1 stumbling block. The second opportunity for all businesses is to invest in data and build a robust first-party data infrastructure, and measure, right, and link this data infrastructure to your measurement systems. And last but not the least, activate this information, right, to your business. Again, where the cookie crumbles here is that people are so excited about all this, and then they do some test and some learning, but they're just constantly in this test and learn loop, and without scaling it to the larger business. So whatever is working, definitely scale, and because I think as tech is actually spreading at a much faster pace than what we think.
Sure. Saloni?
I think for me, it's something that I think both Bhaskar and Ajit touched upon, which is seamlessness. Seamlessness when it comes to consumer experiences, whether it's a form of communication that they see on television or digital platform, or whether it is the channel from where they are purchasing, which could be online or offline or a mix of both. Trying to ensure you make the experience as seamless as possible. It sounds very, very simple, but it's the toughest thing to do, I think, is the key in delivering the aha moment that Tushar was speaking of. And I think to the point that Bhaskar was making as well, seamlessness within the organization, to bring down the walls and to bring down the boundaries. Again, easier said than done. We're a 100-year-old company, and we pride ourselves in saying that.
I was going to ask you that. How do you do that at L'Oreal?
And I think it's cultural, right? Because we pride ourselves in saying that we're a 100-year-old company with the spirit of a startup. And the reason we say this, and sometimes internally it's difficult to explain to teams, but the reality is that I've now been with L'Oreal 10 years, but we have the marketing team structure, if that's how we would call it, change probably every 18 months, which is more reflective of how the world outside is changing, right? And that's why we say we're a 100-year-old company with the spirit of a startup, because startups are agile. Startups start fresh, without any baggage. And I think to keep that in mind and to bring down those boundaries and to understand that it's one consumer you're serving at the end of the day, whether it's modern trade, general trade, e-commerce, we can draw the boundaries, we can have our goals. But ultimately that goal is one. To have that mindset and inculcate it in the organization is as important as what you finally serve to the consumer outside.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Tushar? You wanted to add
Yeah,
something?
I just want to add that what happens, if these silos are not broken quickly, is that companies will really waste time in justifying who's performing well, right? And that the internal friction will actually slow them down than actually deliver progress.
Sure. Your thoughts, Tushar?
Good, so I may be repetitive here, but 3 things: convergence of information, and of course, integration of information available at various touch points. That's one. Consistency in the way the brands communicate with the users is very essential. It has to, because it has to stay consistent across all the channels, And lastly, agility, how effectively you are able to adapt to the changing customer needs, be it, the way you communicate with him, the way they consume services. The agility is very key,
Thank you so much. Thanks all of you for great insights on, how to create a fabulous omnichannel experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani.
Thank you.